Ladies and gentlemen, big hairy news.
Hey, kia ora koutou whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hairy News. Kia ora, Chewy. How are you, love?
Kia ora, Pat. I had a plan for tonight, mate. I
have to say,
plan.
I've been really busy today, so I don't know what's going on in the news. So I don't remember really up to date with what's happening. Has anything happened today we need to talk about?
Well, see, part of my plan was this.
Yep.
Okay. And,
Yep.
and instead, I've had to pivot. Where'd it go?
To get the hard stuff?
To this.
Okay.
To this. And I'm drinking it out of a pineapple.
Okay. Paddy's Irish whiskey. Will that do? All right. We've got a guest coming on. We've got a guest coming on in the moment, not to talk about the American election necessarily, because we think it's really, really important that we also talk about the treaty principles bill and how these dirty dogs have gone and shifted the introducing it to Parliament to the same days that everyone's going to be talking about the American election. TVNZ News tonight, Chewy, only American election, nothing else. Stuff News, they have a piece on it, which we're going to watch. And of course, dirty dogs doing it because they don't want to be confronted next week by a certain hikoi that's coming towards them. We think it's really important to talk about it. I said to Chewy beforehand, it feels like this is one of the things that we want to talk about. So we are not going to let that go. So we're going to talk about that first. And should there be anything else that comes from that's happened in the news today, we will get to that afterwards. It's really important that we don't just let this go based around a real life idiocracy that's going on right now in certain parts of the world. Fair, Chewy?
That is very fair. I did not do a good mix on this, by the way. Very, very poor.
All right. So let us bring into the studio very special guest tonight. Very honoured to have her with us again. It's Moana Maniapoto. Moana, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Kia ora, Moana.
Kia ora, lovely to be with you. And I'm going to pick up from what you said, because you had your nice can that you were going to talk about. This week, I was going to do this whole thing about this.
Yeah.
But it's my new album. But it's
your new album.
Is that your new album? Nice.
It's a vinyl. Like one of those round things you put on a record player, but they call them turntables now. But it's just been totally upended because there's these other existential things that are going on. So I'm just tucking my album away. Though it is quite lovely listening to some of the songs to calm the farm.
Yeah. Look, I know it's very strange for some people because all they will want for us to do is to get into the conversation around America. We are going to go there. And let's just put this up there as well. There you go. MoanaNZ.com. MoanaNZ.com.
I know that music might
artwork.
feel like it's kind of a bit frivolous at this point, but it does serve to soothe us when we need it. But also this particular album, which has reach into 6 different countries around the world and celebrates language and commonality, is quite timely, I think. So, I sort of think, well, okay, it's probably not the best time to launch it this week, but it actually could be because it's can be quite cathartic.
Yeah. No, look, I think Chewy's the same. I'm in a little bit of shock, not necessarily because there was no chance a certain orange chimpanzee could win, but we said last night that there would be a different result today, but my kind of position was based around what all the people in America were saying. You know, what's his name, Litchfield, the guy who never gets it wrong, Fahrenheit 9/11, Michael Myers, Michael Moore. You know what he was saying. So we were taking our lead from the people who know something, and we were wrong. We were wrong.
Yeah.
And we got one thing right, Moana. We said last night, I bet you by the time we go to air tomorrow night, Donald Trump will have said he's won, whether he has or not. And he did say he's won, but that's because he's won. So it's kind of, we sort of got that right, but not really right. But anyway.
I know. And actually, for our show, we've planned to speak to a number of 2 Indigenous Native American journalists that I spoke to when I was up there in July and August, and a wonderful journalist in Nashville. And we have actually planned to speak to them on the weekend because we thought, well, this could be really close. Who knows? You know, we better save it up for the last minute. But the pressure's come off. But one of the journalists made this amazing quote that I thought resonated with me, which is, he said, American exceptionalism allows us to be stupid and make the worst decision and to shoot ourselves in the foot and have 10 cheeseburgers and elect a convict for president.
Yeah.
I'm just quoting.
Yeah. Well, look, let's talk about New Zealand news first. And then, Moana, if you want to stay for a bit and talk about American stuff, we can do that as well. But we want to talk about the treaty referendum and the hikoi with you while you're here. So let's do that. As I said earlier, TVNZ ignored this. It's on their website, but they ignored it in a story. Stuff gave it approximately 2.5 minutes of their time tonight. So what we might just do is watch the Stuff program, because it's got David Seymour and they're kind of going, well, what do you mean? We were just ready to go, so we brought it forward for no apparent reason. And then we can respond to this.
Well, back home now, and in a surprise move, the government's controversial Treaty Principles Bill will be introduced to Parliament tomorrow, about 2 weeks earlier than expected. Te Pāti Māori claims it's an attempt to get ahead of a hikoi set to arrive at Parliament on November 19th. But ACT leader David Seymour is calling that a conspiracy. Meanwhile, the response to the earlier
and he would know.
Introduction of the Waitangi Tribunal has released a second scathing report into the bill. Nick Trubridge has the story.
An attempt to avoid more of this, or business as usual. Whatever the answer, the Treaty Principles Bill hits the House tomorrow. Cue political firestorm.
What we've seen is a really disturbing individual, proud of the disruption and the disharmony that he's creating in Aotearoa.
Look, I think Te Pāti Māori see conspiracies nearly everywhere.
This was the turnout for a hikoi in May in response to the coalition government's policies impacting Māori. Another one, which organisers predict could involve 50,000 people, is planned in response to the bill. It was due to reach Parliament on November 19, the day after the bill's original introduction date. Seymour says the date's been brought forward because sometimes dates simply change.
Basically because we got all the work we needed to get done, got the policy agreed, got it through Cabinet, had the bill drafted and ready to go.
The Māori Party says whatever the date, the damage is done.
Well, it already has divided a country and it hasn't even hit the House yet. And so we've got a minister and a leader of an ACT party who has a premeditated agenda, which is to allow a 6-month period for a racist agenda to run its course.
The uproar coincides with the release of the Waitangi Tribunal's second report on the bill. It hasn't held back, saying the Crown's process to develop the bill has deliberately excluded any consultation with the Māori treaty partner. It adds, if the bill remained on the statute book for a considerable amount of time or was never repealed, it could mean the end of the treaty. It also found if this bill were to be enacted, it would be the worst, most comprehensive breach of the treaty in modern times.
I think that the Waitangi Tribunal...
I'm sure Richard Prebble will sort all those problems out though, won't he? I'm sure he's getting ready to make sure that we hold firm to the true intention and meaning of the treaty. I think Richard Prebble is the man for the job.
Comprehensive breach of the treaty in modern times.
I think that the Waitangi Tribunal's had 50 years to define the principles. They've come up with a set of ideas that are actually highly divisive. We are doing their job for them.
As for the hikoi, expect scenes like this, and then some, organisers say.
I think 50,000 is a conservative if you're thinking about the amount of people that will be involved from top to bottom at all the different stages. The cumulative number, I think, will be well over that.
As the bill's architect prepares for his big day.
There you go. I've been speaking to Eru tonight because I contacted him again and said if he wanted to come on, and he says they're in a hui tonight. Big plan, but we'll definitely try and connect with Eru again through this process. Moana, we'll just throw it to you, mate. What are your thoughts?
Well, I guess one of the key issues I've always questioned about this is backing up the tribunal when it says that David Seymour's bill is a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. And what many of us are asking is, how is anybody being undermined by Te Tiriti? David Seymour has advocated for a national conversation or a debate, but I was chairing something at a Tauranga Book Festival the other weekend, and it was a full room, mainly Pākehā, and I asked the audience to put up their hands if they felt confident and comfortable about debating or even engaging in a national conversation around Te Tiriti. And about 4 people put their hands up, and I knew 2 of them. They were my Māori guests. So you can't have a genuine conversation when the parameters for it have been unilaterally dictated, and about the foundational agreement of this country without any engagement with Māori. So the process of even getting this bill to where it is, the rewriting of it is extremely inflammatory, and it challenges any notion that there's a genuine attempt to have an engaged national conversation.
One of the things that I think is strangest as well is nobody, public-wise, obviously behind the scenes to do, know even what the wording of this bill's going to be until tomorrow. The Herald talked about that today, and they did an article on it. Treaty Principles Bill wording to be revealed tomorrow amid fierce criticism. So at the moment, I mean, Moana, we agree with you about consultation and involving Māori in the conversation, but the conversation that they're talking about, no one even knows what the parameters are yet, because no one's seen the wording yet until it gets put before the House tomorrow.
Well, we've had conversations with David Seymour. I've interviewed him. There have been countless interviews. There have been articles on their website which indicate what the wording will be like, and it basically writes Māori out of the equation. Yeah. It takes out, it excludes the indigeneity, the tangata whenua status of Māori. So that is a serious rewrite, and the tribunal has been quite clear that the bill is based on a flawless policy rationale. Like I say, what is the problem that we're trying to solve here? Has been generous in saying it was novel in its treaty interpretations, fashioned on a disingenuous historical narrative, and distorted the text of Te Tiriti or Waitangi. So I had people on my show like Matthew Hooton, and Chris Vanessa, and you wouldn't call them raging lefties. Matthew described the rewrite as we know it, and we have no reason to believe it won't be much different from that, as highly radical. Not conservative, but highly radical, both in the process that's been adopted to get the bill to where it is and the way that Māori have been erased from the equation in the proposed text.
We were watching Christopher Luxon. We've done a couple of pieces on Christopher Luxon this week when he was on 30 with Guy and Espino. Oh, and Guy on said to him, yeah, but you agree this is divisive, eh? And he goes, yep. It's like he was so keen to get power at any means, by any means. He's opened the door for this kind of conversation. I'm air quotes around the conversation, to happen. He knows it's divisive. I actually now don't think it'll go past the first reading. For a while, I was like, no, I don't think it will. What do you think about what, and I'm talking about Luxon in particular. He's the Prime Minister. He's opened the door for this. He owns this. What he's done, letting this get put before the House and be debated for 6 months, and what that's going to do to society, which we need to remember goes back to him, not just Seymour, but him as well.
Yeah, like 6 months. 6 months of airtime, focus on this particular bill, which is extremely flawed, is going to turn a proposed debate around the treaty into a law and order issue. It's going to become really toxic. And given the Prime Minister has confirmed he won't be in the country during the first reading of the Treaty Principles Bill, which, I mean, it's easy to assume, it's easy for all New Zealanders to assume that the coalition agreement takes precedence over the founding document of this country, and that is very telling.
That's rough, mate. Saying it like that, that's fucking rough. Chewy, why don't you jump in, brother?
There's so much I can say here. I think moving this up to this week for the absolutely transparent reasons that they've done it, that it'll be lost in the wash of the US elections, and then they want to get it to the debate chamber before the hikoi even leaves, is just some devious trash tier politics, and everybody behind it should be ashamed of it. I think we've got to keep in mind that David Seymour has one thing in mind. He knows he's going to lose this, but he is going to tie up so much of our national debate on it. He's going to keep it in the news cycle for as long as he can, and his end game is a public referendum, which will be one of the most horrifically divisive things that this country has ever seen. I think he's dead set on flushing 50 years worth of slow, inching, hard fought for progress in this country down the toilet based on his debate club understanding of New Zealand history. I think we got people in the chat talking about the training that they had and the knowledge that they had through their jobs of learning about treaty breaches, and we're talking about hundreds of years of straight up ignoring the treaty and ignoring Māori. As soon as it was signed and people could come in, that was mission accomplished as far as Europeans were involved in. And I think the discussion has shifted, is that there is a significant portion of this country that realizes that the treaty doesn't oppress anyone, that it is unique in the world, and we need to stand for it. I think there's a lot of people that are ignorant around treaty issues and don't have the training and don't have the understanding and haven't searched out the knowledge to form a coherent opinion on this, apart from sounds like Māori are being greedy.
Yeah, so
that's what David Seymour is counting on.
Yeah. So I always go back to that tribunal thing, is what is the problem that they're trying to solve? So you know, you see say the Te Aka Whai order, MAPAS up at Auckland University, that's the Māori Pacific medical program, to try and get more Māori into as doctors, a treaty clause within corrections that will prod corrections to have some culturally relevant sort of programs for people in prison, so they can have for reintegration and rehabilitation, so that there's a strategy in place. And none of these are bulletproof, but these are just triggers. That's what these principles do. But you know, what's changed? Are there suddenly, because of these strategies that are embodied in He Oranga Tamariki and different things, are there suddenly way more Pākehā that have been disproportionately imprisoned? Are there suddenly way more Pākehā whose health needs are not being met? I mean, do you guys know? I haven't seen any indication of that.
I want a lot of things in this country to be have the treaty more centric in them, and it is at times for quite selfish reasons. I like the idea of the majority of our rivers being swimmable, and certainly doing things the way that we've been doing has not got that. So
Yeah.
you know, one of my hopes is that when we get past this, and we start considering things, resource management through a te tiriti lens, is that we will get better outcomes. Because as we've said on the show many times, what is good for Māori is good for all of us, because we live in the same country. And
Yes.
it baffles me when I look at someone like David Seymour and say, can you not see this? And I think he can. I think he wants to ignore it.
Well, I think there are
not what his
ideological
crew
things.
wants.
Yeah, there's ideological things at play, which is kind of ironic, given that's been the accusation that's been thrown at other people who are treaty proponents, you know, for over the years. But if I think about, okay, we want to have a national conversation, we want to have a debate about the te tiri, that's all good. Some of us have been having that forever. Like, I remember being at Waitangi in 1990 when Bishop Verco, Whakahuihui Verco, and a whole bunch of us were sort of booing. The Queen was there. And, you know, we're like, oh, no, the church is going to just, you know, roll over. And he got up there and he said, we don't need the principles. We have te tiriti. And everybody stopped booing and going, yeah. You know, and there have been strategies like Mātiki Mai and conversations around He Puapua. There have been conversations in the justice space that have been going on for a long time. I mean, really challenging ones. And I've been a part of some of those, and they have been challenging. You've had to think about, okay, if te tiriti isn't, if we bring it alive, how do we make sure that the systems and institutions we put into place, the protocols and mechanisms, are good for everybody, not just for that particular iwi, but for Māori, but also for Pākehā, for immigrant culture. So there's been an awful lot of thinking and debate that's been going on way before we got to this election. And none of that has been taken into account in the shaping of this particular bill.
What do you think Waitangi Day next year is going to be like, Moana?
Ooh.
Well, I used to hold an event here in Muriwai Beach called Every Day is Waitangi Day, and everywhere. And I think it'll be a continuation of a movement, and I'd like to think that it's a movement that is New Zealand tiriti centric. I'd like to think when I've interviewed people this year, and I've met so many wonderful people this year, at the tauranga thing, you know, these Pākehā kuia coming up to me and going, I'll debate the treaty. I said, really? They go, yeah, I'm on the right side. I'm like, oh, gee, neat, all right. You know, Asians for Tino Rangatiratanga, the old Project Waitangi that's morphed into kind of tangata tiriti. There's so many awesome educators out there, people who work in justice, people who work in health. I think there's a movement that's going to start. I'd like to think that it's one that's going to build and be very clear that, you know, this is a tiriti focused Aotearoa is something magical. It really is. It's something special. It's something that we don't have. When I talk to my friends up in States, bless them, oh my God, they've got so many treaties in Canada and the States, and it's all very confusing and they're very marginalised. People look at us and go, you've got one treaty. And I'm going, yeah, and it's hard yakka with that one. There is so much potential there. And we know that the principles that have been developed over the years don't address the elephant in the room, which is around sovereignty. But there are principles that have been developed that are based on te tiriti, that allow for a mana enhancing, as Moana Jackson would say, a mana enhancing relationship that's good for everybody. And I'd like to think that we will get to that space. And that's a constitutional, we have a unique constitutional opportunity and relationship here. It's not based on race, despite what people say. It's not based on Māori and Pākehā. It's based on between Rangatira of Papua and Iwi nations and Hobson on behalf of the Crown. So, we've got to get that kind of thing right.
Yeah, it's two signatories. It's based on the two signatories.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, if my neighbor who is from Japan signs a mortgage with the bank, that's not an agreement based on race. It's two people, or it's a bank and it's a Japanese family who are signing up for a mortgage. It doesn't matter that one of them happens to be a complete Japanese family, Japanese New Zealanders. It's not. We never think about that being based on race.
No, it's not about ethnicity. It's not about the ethnicity. The original agreement was between two nations. And there's nothing to fear about that. We can be. I always just think that we can be. We've got the opportunity, because when you look at the states, even though we don't want to, it's so complex. It's so big. There's so many people. They've got a really stuffed system. We have got such an opportunity here in Aotearoa, where we're a small population, where everybody almost knows everybody, where we've got these strong relationships. We've got this treaty which is built on values, which provides a mechanism for us to move forward. The potential is so exciting that we could be the example for everybody else.
I'm interested in one aspect of the treaty. We all saw Lydia Thorpe 2 weeks ago, 2.5, 3 weeks ago, challenging King Charles about what the Crown has done to the Indigenous people of Australia. And as she was being herded out of the room, she was crying out, "We want a treaty. We want a treaty." Is she just referencing what New Zealand has? Is that the example of a treaty that Indigenous people would want? Because when I, as a non-Māori, talk about it, I always have this caveat where I go, it's so much better than Australia. Not that it's good in New Zealand. We haven't worked it out in New Zealand, but so how do we square that circle? Like, is Lydia Thorpe calling out for what Māori have, and then how do we work out what Māori have to be what Māori should have?
Well, Well, we did a story on the Voice to Parliament, and really at the end of the day, there are no treaties over there. They were seeking to set up, if you want to be blunt, a kind of an advisory body to Parliament that would provide Indigenous Australians with a voice, and they would look at it. Like, I interviewed an Attorney General for South Australia or something, and he's like, "Oh, we want what you guys are going." And I'm like, well, the practical reality is we have this thing, but the implementation of it, the mechanisms around it, don't bring it to life. So we are in a kind of advisory position, and that's the problem, the essential problem with the principles. The principles which have been identified by the court and in part by the tribunal, though that's another deeper discussion, is about it embeds the Crown's role or authority to protect, to enable partnership and participation of Māori. Mm-hmm. Those are not necessarily, they are not a reflection of the actual articles, which go deeper, which talk about sovereignty and talk about power sharing. So my conversations with Indigenous Australians is, so we have Te Tiriti, and that is a constitutional arrangement which is mana enhancing between two separate nations, and allows the Crown to have authority over one, and blah, 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 blah. It's different from, that is not what we have now, as represented by the principles. Mm. But that's no excuse for somebody to say, well, even those principles, which are meant to ensure active protection, partnership, and whatever, are too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've got one more question, kind of unrelated. So, Chew, have you got anything else you want to ask of Moana at the moment, or points you want to make?
No, not at this stage.
Every time we talk to you, Moana, I think it's been a couple of times now, and you're so wise and you have such good perspectives, and it feels like you can bring something more to this nation through what you're doing. Have you ever thought about politics? Like, have you ever thought about it? Or I'm sure you've been approached, but have you ever thought about it?
I have thought about it, and I suppose one of the considerations, I mean, I'm a little bit lippy, and I don't know if I could sit in the back, you know. But also, you know, when I was approached, my daughter was young and it's just not a priority. But I do respect a lot of people that go into Parliament.
Mm-hmm.
It is and it's probably one of the things that's put me off, to be honest, is that it is hugely draining. That's for the people that go in with a kaupapa. And I know some people that go and they want to make a difference and they stay up all night, they're tortured, you know, and then there are others that just are in there for an ego or coasting along. So, you know, it is a really, really big decision to be able to do that sort of a thing. And yeah.
All right. Hey, we're going to go on now and talk about some other news stories that happened today. I'm not entirely sure about what those are going to be. Do you want to offer a thought or opinion or anything on the US just before we say goodbye?
Well, I was messaging with some of my friends in the States who are in different parts, who are hosting election programs, or journalists who are Indigenous, or some who are in New York and that, and asking how they felt. And at the start of the day, or yesterday, they sort of felt kind of optimistic, though I know one friend came back and he said, no matter what the outcome is going to be, it's going to be very dire because the country is so polarized. He said that even if Kamala Harris won, there would be, you know, expected violence from a sort of a right leaning, you know, constituency, and that if Trump wins, there will be more embedding in terms of authoritarianism and that kind of stuff. It's very interesting that both that Democratic and Republican voters have all chosen on the basis of their concern around democracy. Like the Republicans, that's their big driving factor why they voted for Trump, was concern. The people I spoke to in Oklahoma City, in Port Husker, we need to vote President Trump back in to reinstate democracy, you know? And then the Democrats that I spoke to in New York or in Port Husker, oh my God, we've got to keep them out because of democracy. Far out.
Your far outside the end there. I think that's the audible version of what everybody's feeling right now. So we won't put you through. I'm gonna tell a little story. Unfortunately, Moana. I don't want to embarrass you too much, but Chewy, Moana. When I messaged Moana today and said, "Do you want to come on?" What did you say? I'm a couple of wines deep. I don't know how long I'll last. So Chewy's got the Jack Daniels. I've got the whiskey, and maybe we'll see you at Waitangi next year, Moana.
My God, did you watch his speech though, Trump?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just terrible. Hey, tell people where they can get the actual vinyl that you've got out today or out this week.
Yes, the vinyl, yes. It was funny because I was watching TV1 News and then I kind of was cruising through and 7 Sharp was on and then I popped up. They did a lovely story on me. So you can get these from, I don't know, record shops, Marbeck's and places like that.
Do they still
nice,
exist?
eh?
Does a record store still
so.
exist? Is there a record store in Dunedin, Chewy?
Yeah, Relics Records. They're really good.
All right.
That's what I asked when they said, do you want to put a record out? I said, who has one of those turntable things? And my son.
I do. I have 600 records. Yes, I am a collector. I'm an obsessive.
My
so
son.
Yes. I like the expense and the inconvenience of it. It's really nice.
They're beautiful, eh? Yeah. And we had one in our office. My son got it. And he interviewed John Rawls many years ago. John Rawls gave him his entire record collection. So I think that's why he ended up with his record. So I put the record on to have a listen to it because I didn't have a turntable. And then it got to, so there's 6 songs and it got to the 3rd one. And I thought, oh my God, we've freaking stuffed it up because it's big. There's just silence. Oh, hell. And my son says, Mum, you got to turn it over.
Very, very cool. And for all the fantastic advice and words you've shared tonight, I think the most important thanks comes from Sarah, who wants you to know that she loves your nails. So there you go. That's the summary of us pouring our hearts out, and that is we love your nails. So there you go.
Thank you. Lovely to talk to you guys.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate you
I
giving us some time.
I needed to hear some perky cordial tonight.
Well, we're about to go into the depressing part of the show, so we'll let you go.
Okay, I'm out of here. Okay.
All right, Moana. Thanks very much.
Okay.
See you, mate.
Hey, before we move on to the fucking death of Western democracy,
dude, do you have people not worked out that we dragged that for as long as we could to run out of time? People not aware of that quite yet. No, we didn't. That was great.
Oh god, what? Get that message out of here. Where did that pop up from?
Your drug dealer just popped up in the messaging, bro.
I'm sure. Yeah, she doesn't want to be on the podcast. We've talked about how tactical this moving up of the debate is to beat this hikoi. We've just got basically the South Island part of it's just been announced. So starting Monday the 11th of November in Bluff, then moving up the country, so 6 a.m. at Stirling Point, the bottom of the South Island, 12 p.m. in Invercargill, and then Otipoti, Dunedin, we are 12 p.m. The next day, and then Christchurch on the 13th. Again, 12 p.m. at the Bridge of Remembrance. Nelson, 14th of November, on the Cathedral Steps, 12 p.m. So that is the South Island one. This is the website, Toito Tariti, for the North Island one, which is more highly publicised because I guess they forgot about the South Island for a little bit.
Or, no, I think what it is that Dame Whena Cooper's path. That's the path that Dame Whena Cooper took. That's why it's got the kudos.
Everybody in the South Island went, oi, we want to be part of this too. So that's what it is. Head along to the website, head along to the Facebook group. If you plan to attend and support, and as we've always said, be a buffer, make sure that Māori aren't doing this by themselves and they see Pākehā doing it with them. Not for them, with them.
With them. Yeah, very good. I'm just trying to, there's a few chats in here. I'm just going to get the ones that relate to Moana before we get to that other topic for the night. Brian says, government do not care, comma, racists. Also, from Bill Late Fee, thank you for the tube chat. Been cheering myself up listening to the new Cure album. There you go. Bit of a recommendation there from Bill B. I think the rest of it is America. So let's get into it.
I will just acknowledge a couple of things that are happening in the chat as well. There are people saying that, I get penis. There are people in the chat saying that sometimes their chats aren't going through, that they're getting an error. I would imagine that that's on YouTube's end.
Nothing
I would imagine that their comment servers are getting absolutely crushed.
Yeah, true.
The other thing is we have some visitors to our channel. This might be the first time that they're attending. A lot of their comments aren't getting through the auto moderator,
right?
Because they're not very clever.
And by auto moderator, we don't mean there's a literal person. We mean that's the YouTube algorithm that is set to not let various themed chats get
usually through. Just means you come in being way too hot, way too offensive, dropping some pretty spicy words in there, and you just won't get through. It doesn't make me break a sweat. I don't have to do a damn thing.
Well, no, but look, let's just address that after Penis says sad day for America on the super chat. Thank you for that. Because this is what it'll be all about. Let's put Cress's comment up. Thank you for the super chat. Hope you guys aren't coping too hard or coping too hard. Cope. Don't worry. One day a girl might be president. This is the thing that's always fascinating, especially in New Zealand. I don't know about you, Chewie, but the election result in America is not going to impact my life one iota. Like, it's not going to impact my day-to-day life at all. What it will do, though, for a lot of people in America, is impact their life. Vulnerable people, migrants, minorities. So the idea that we're coping like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to live past tonight because he won. It's like, that's not the story, and that's not the situation. In fact, we said last night, although, as I said before, we were saying we thought Kamala would probably win based on a lot of advice from Americans. But we also, of course, said, but we don't know. You know, the last time that the less popular, and by popular I mean in the polls, candidate won, the only time since the 1950s was Donald Trump. And once again, the less popular candidate, according to the polls, has won, and it's Donald Trump. So, you know, and it also appears that we were talking about the herding of election results. That looks like that maybe wasn't a thing, because the results haven't come out with a massive swing. They're a lot closer than perhaps people were thinking. So just so you know, I personally am not coping. That sounds weird. When I'm saying I'm not coping, I mean like in the sense of the slang use of the term. I think it's a really ridiculous decision. And all you had to do, if you knew nothing about the election and all you did was got Donald Trump's speech about an hour ago, you'd be like, who is this fucking moron? Like, if that's all you saw of the whole thing. And I'll say this, right? And this is what I'll say for you people who want to have a crack. Come back in 12 months, because we said this about National Party getting in, and we said what would happen, and we said who would be impacted, and guess what? We were right. National got in through their coalition. They are the rightful government. Donald Trump appears that he's going to be. I think there are like a 1% chance or whatever. It's very, very unlikely, but the rightful winner over there. And you know what? It's going to be terrible for a sector of America. It's going to be terrible. And straight away, what we hear is Trump said this in a speech, we are going to pay down debt and we're going to give huge tax cuts. It's not how it works, dude. You can't do both things. You need more money to pay down debt, or you grow your debt with less money. Donald Trump, statistically speaking, with what was achieved and where the economy was left, was the worst president the US has had. And they've just elected him again. And remember, like I said the other night, I think it's Thomas Jefferson, America, you get the government you deserve. And you know what? You deserve him. You deserve fucking Robert RFK Jr. to be in charge of making America healthy again. The dude who doesn't believe in vaccines, the dude who has literal brainworms, he's going to be making the policy. It's like you couldn't write this. This script would not be made. It's too far-fetched. He's the guy that's going to be making decisions for America around their health services, Chewy.
Look, as far as that comment goes, right? I love it. I've seen so many of these comments this evening of like cope and seethe coming from Trump supporters. Trump supporters like the ones that coped and seethed so hard they did a coup.
Yeah.
When they lost. Are we seeing an armed insurrection from Democratic voters at this stage?
No, not. There will be. Look, there will be violence here and there. There will be isolated things that happen in the streets, without question.
But
like in
but
America,
will we see January 6th?
No. In America,
no, we won't.
When the sports team, your favorite sports ball team, wins their event, NBA, NFL, when they win the championship, they riot and turn cars over. So there's going to be violence on some of them, but as Chewy's saying, there'll be nothing to the level that happened when the orange man decided to instigate his followers to go in and try and steal the election.
Yeah, it's fine if you think that Trump is the pure distilled version of masculinity that you want to echo. A 70-plus-year-old man that shits himself.
Here's the other thing. J.D. Vance will be the president within the next 4 years. Donald Trump is too old and too unhealthy. I don't think he will make the 4 years. And I'm not saying anything nefarious like they're going to take him out. I don't think he will make the 4 years. JD Vance is going to be the president at some stage. Here's a text message that was sent out by, I'm not sure who this person is, but this is
I was going to put that one up too.
But this is, all these stats are accurate. He was the worst president in history, and when he got voted out, he tried to stage a coup. Then he stole national secrets and sold the ones he didn't store in the bathroom. He was convicted of fraud, found liable of sexual assault, and convicted of 34 felonies. He has $500 million in debt, owned by God only knows who, and the biggest national security risk in the nation has ever had. But at least he's not a black woman.
I mean, again, coming back to that comment, the very fact that Kamala, you know, how old is she? She's
60
plus.
60.
60-year-old woman called a girl. and somehow the comment of like, oh, one day a girl will be president. Like, so many countries have elected female leaders for decades, and America still can't get over that. Like, it's ridiculous. This is, and as far as your quote there, you know, America gets the government it deserves.
Yep.
I have a problem with that. There are a hell of a lot of people in New Zealand, in this America, that's the country we're talking about, in America that are getting the government that they do not deserve.
No, but the reason they say that text, right? The reason that rings true is always on the left. People don't participate like they do on the right. As of right now, he's leading in the popular vote. As of right now, he was about 3 million ahead.
That is
so if you don't participate, and it was like 63 to 68 million, right? That's like 130 million people out of 337 million people. Now, obviously, some of those are under 18, but the reason you get the government that you deserve is that if you don't participate, then it's partly on you. So I don't agree with you, Chewy. There are plenty of people who are sitting on the left who didn't want this to happen, who also didn't participate, and they got their non-participation gave them the result that they deserve, which sounds horrible.
Look, the Democratic Party is going to thrash this out for probably years to come. I think there are some real consequences here. My first thought went out to Ukraine.
Yeah.
Because for all the criticism we have of Biden's administration, they put a lot of backing into Ukraine. Not enough, but a lot. Trump will try and make them capitulate. And in my opinion, the government, the EU, or all the European nations are going to need to stop umming and ahhing and really ramp up what they can provide to Ukraine, because the supplies from the US are going to dry up. You've got a country there that's fighting for its existence, and for a lot of the last couple of years has been doing it with one hand behind their back, because the stuff that they're getting from America comes with conditions because they don't want to escalate things. Trump's not going to care about that. He's going to cut off the taps. Elon's going to help him.
And what about Israel? That's the other thing. Gaza?
Yeah.
Are we saying goodbye to Gaza?
Yeah. So there's not a single person on the Trump side of things that gives a single solitary shit about anything in that region apart from Israel. They don't care what they do. Netanyahu's already congratulated them on the win. Like, it's fucked.
Elon
and that's
Musk
from a foreign policy point of view. Like, foreign leaders, apart from Kim Jong-il, Putin, Viktor Orban, have all gone, God help us if Trump gets back in, because the geopolitical scene will be fucked. Last time round, at least he had foreign policy advisors, military advisors that wanted to be part of it because they were Republicans, and they thought, well, look, I don't like the guy, but at least I'll be the adult in the room. And they've all stood up and said, never again, we can't let this guy back in. So all the adults in the room are gone now. Who his pickers for Joint Chiefs of Staff or foreign policy positions and that sort of thing. He's talking about giving Elon a fucking cabinet position.
Yeah, but the thing, what Elon is now talking about, it sounds like a little bit like what they made up for David Seymour, the Office of Regulations of this, that, and the other. Elon has said there's going to be hard times coming ahead. He's actually already talking austerity. The richest man in the world is talking austerity for people to make it hard. But here's the other thing, Chewy, and I just thought about it again when I saw Fox News. I can't find it now. Here, right there. Republicans gain Senate. So the other thing is Republicans may very well have the White House, the Senate, and the Congress, and that
Supreme
is
Court.
like, and the Supreme Court now, plus probably two other Supreme Court nominees during his term, which will make it a conservative, pretty far right, further right Supreme Court for the next 50 years. So it's like when Labor here had that majority through COVID, and they could have, if they wanted to do anything they want, that's potentially what the next 2 years are going to be. Normally the midterm elections is a revolt against the incumbency, but certainly for the next 2 years, they can quite literally do almost anything they want, including instigating a whole bunch of laws and stuff that makes it easier by gerrymandering for Republicans to continue to win. That's what the next 2 years is going to be. And now we all get to read is it 600-page document called Project 2025? It's terrifying, man.
Yeah, I think a big part of this is like, so they haven't even got the excuse that we've got, right? That our elections are not about the Prime Minister, they're about the party. This was the presidential elections. People went and saw all of Trump's words and actions. They even had his previous term as evidence of what it was going to be like.
Yeah,
and they weighed that up against the opposition. And like I'm looking at, you know, my US-based friends on social media. I won't name them, but I'll highlight them. One of them was saying that they're as bad as each other because every politician's a crook. So I'm going to stay home, wank, and smoke in the hot tub. You know, there are people that are not part of the process. They think it's all crooked. But at that stage, he was weighing Trump and Kamala as equally bad. And objectively, I'm not there with them.
No, wait.
Another friend of mine had real issues with Kamala just being put on the ballot without any sort of primary, without any sort of vetting. Maybe that would have been different if Biden, you know, just did his term and gave her more of a runway, gave people more of an opportunity to get to know her. Maybe if there was a primary process, if there was enough time for that. But that turned him right off voting for
and
him.
you know what, that is a valid criticism. But now this is the downstream effect of being angry about that and maybe not participating. This is the downstream
and if I was
effect.
in that position, I agree with him. That is a valid thing.
Yeah.
But sometimes you got to hold your nose and just do it. Sort it out afterwards. We have talked at length about the huge problems with the system that America has. I think this is just a symptom of the erosion of some of the things, the processes and the organizations and the checks and balances that America built into its political system and have steadily been eroded since the 1980s. Like there's a very long-term plan at play here from right-wing elements in the US to stack the deck.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this. Like on the left, you try and take the high road as much as possible, but meanwhile, other guys are stacking the deck over the terms of decades. Like it wasn't enough. Like people are criticizing Democrats for welcoming Republicans to vote for Kamala and putting them up. That should have been a warning to people. Like if people are choosing country over party, and the people that were doing that should have been a warning. So now we've had 4 years of a barely coherent businessman who has bankrupted every company he's ever run, including 2 simultaneous casinos, who wants to leave NATO, leave the UN.
Might have been 3, just quietly. Might have been.
Jesus. Who is a convicted felon. Like, this was like they put off sentencing him because of the election.
Yeah.
It's like they have chosen. And we haven't even got what we hoped for, that he definitely won't win the popular vote. It looks like he has.
Well, I think
crazy.
There will still be a flood of votes being counted overnight, and there are a lot of the early votes. So he may not. That's still up in the air. I know during his speech he said, "And I won the popular vote, never before." But wait till tomorrow to see what the story is with that. He may not. Not that fucking matters in that ridiculous system, but he may not. Let's just do some of these chats because some people have messaged us quite a ways ago. Peter says the new media are partly responsible in cultivating rage bait and platforming polemists. How do you say that one? Polemists.
Yeah,
that's what I'll go
I'd say
with.
that.
The left, I don't know what a polemicist is. The left must find ways to counter this with more appealing alternatives and not simply amplifying the right. Kiwi Bird says, I will never understand the American median voter.
The undecided voter.
Yeah.
How can you be undecided?
Kiwi Bird goes on to say, we have had enough America for one day. Sorry, dude. This is what we're doing for the rest of the show, which is only going to be a few more minutes. We need to use the USA election results as motivation to fight back against this coalition. Don't roll over, stand up. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Chris says, my poor American wife drowning her sorrows in wine. Yep, I'm feeling ya. Ryzen's got an idea though. What if Kamala refused to certify the results? That's what Trump said that Mike Pence could have done, eh? So if Mike Pence could have done it, then I guess that means Kamala can do that. Peter says, we need a skilled and competent negotiator to navigate the next 4 years. Sadly, we have Luxon. And then David sent us a super sticker. You were talking about, and it made me think about a clip from tonight from the live daily show, 2.5 minutes of Jon Stewart wrapping up, I guess, the day for us.
Here's what we know, is that we don't really know anything, and that we're going to come out of this election and we're going to make all kinds of pronouncements about what this country is and what this world is. And the truth is, we're not really going to know shit. And we're going to make it seem like this is the finality of our civilization, this and thing. We're all going to have to wake up tomorrow morning and work like hell to move the world to the place that we prefer it to be. And I just want to point out, just as a matter of perspective, that the lessons that our pundits take away from these results, that they will pronounce with certainty, will be wrong. and we have to remember that. If you're in 2008, when Barack Obama won,
there's no question that this is the beginning, the first election of the future, really. And I think we are moving towards a post-racial America.
Jeez. The other thing about Obama, I'll play the rest of it. The other thing about when Obama won, he won the young vote, he won the black vote, and he won women. And I said back then, Republicans aren't going to get in for decades. If the Dems have got women, youth, and the black vote sewn up, Hispanic vote as well maybe, then it's all over. And just what I've learned from this is we really didn't do predictions. In fact, even when we had some commentators on, like Sam Cedar the other week, asked him the question, and he said, I do not know. But yeah, I'm going to be far less likely to engage in a prediction in the future. Not that we've really done that, but this is mind-blowing.
Yeah, that lasted a day. And then, of course, in 2012, Obama won again. And the lesson was,
the GOP needs to send a powerful signal to Hispanic voters that the party respects them.
That was that was the lesson they learned after that victory. And they were certain of it. And send a powerful signal to the Hispanic community, the GOP did.
When Mexico sends its people, they're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime.
Look how much younger he looks. Like,
listen to how much, like, what he's saying is insane.
Yeah.
But
the way he's saying it,
it's coherent.
Yeah.
Like, he hasn't gone off on a tangent or talking about a dead golfer's cock.
But it was 8 years ago, I guess. I mean, like, I look very different 8 years ago as well. But yeah, it's striking the difference.
They're rapists.
which apparently was the winning message. And that taught Democrats in 2016 what?
Maybe what the Democrats will be looking for is somebody with some inside experience, but who's a generation younger.
It's obviously going to be younger. It's going to be from a new generation.
Need I say it?
It's a great honor and humility. I accept this nomination.
And that turned out to be a winning message again, which led to an insurrection. And the lesson from that was...
When Donald Trump leaves office on Wednesday morning, he will leave Washington a pariah.
Donald Trump will never be allowed to set foot in the Capitol again. Never.
Fucking hell.
Ever. My point is this. But this isn't the end. I promise you, this is not the end. And we have to regroup, and we have to continue to fight and continue to work day in and day out to create the better society for our children, for this world, for this country, that we know is possible. It's possible.
But the problem is, not to be a Debbie Downer on what John Stewart just said, is that kind of message happened after Bush won. That kind of message happened after Trump won. Happens every time. And this is the thing we talked about the other day. The American system needs to be burnt to the ground. Maybe Trump is the way that happens, because this whole system they've got set up and how they vote and how the party with fewer votes can be the one that wins the presidency, and the gerrymandering they do to allow, you know, a more Republican county to be formed out of a bigger state to help them win. It is rooted. Now, there's no perfect system, but theirs is particularly rooted. I don't want to say it'll be a good thing if the whole country falls over, but maybe Trump will be that, and maybe I'll get to start from the ground up on some level. This does feel like the end of an empire. Like, this does feel Rome has fallen a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like like we're at the part of a history book where it goes causes and factors that lead up to devastating world event.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, there's not too much else we've got to say about tonight. We didn't really have a lot of stuff organized. We thought we'd just have a look at what happened and what went around. Maybe what I'll do, maybe we should do this. Where's Brian? Brian! There's Brian. That wasn't the note. Let's have a look. This is, because I missed this. Brian Tyler Cohen was on air for 8.5 hours today.
Jesus Christ. Does he have a catheter in? Is that how that works?
I think I just leave. And this is how and when he announced the winner. So let's have a look at how he said it. I haven't actually seen this. I just know this is the right time.
Okay. Decision Desk HQ projects that Donald Trump has won Pennsylvania, and that will give him enough votes to become the next president. So that's where we're at right now. As far as the results that we have, it looks like Donald Trump has been elected the 47th president of the United States. That is from both Fox and Decision Desk HQ.
Damn.
He's just reading through to get it from anybody else. So
Democrats have also won the Senate. And it
he said Democrats have won the Senate.
Things are looking in the House.
Didn't he?
Also,
yeah, that's what he said.
Democrats have also won the Senate.
I think it means Republicans.
And It all remains to be seen how things are looking in the House.
Yeah. So anyway,
Yeah, no,
that was how it was
Republicans have
announced.
definitely won the Senate,
Yeah.
51-42.
Yeah. So he just misspoke then.
Because he's been
and
on air
he's-
for 8.5 hours.
Yeah, that's true. But he's had 5 million views, so he's made $10,000 from that stream. So it's kind of worth it. The last thing to probably possibly say, in all seriousness, is this is a democratic process. No matter how messed up it seems to us and how anyone could vote for that person, but the people have. He is the legitimate next president of the United States, and he should be congratulated for winning. I mean, when I say he hasn't done anything wrong, he hasn't done anything necessarily illegal to win. He's done lots of wrong things to win, and how he's spoken and what he's done and who he's blamed. But actually, he won. They voted. This is what happens in these elections. And now it's time to move on. So congratulations to Donald Trump and to his team. I don't understand how you did it, but you did it. I don't understand. It's like, so Fiji finally beat the All Blacks. What? I don't know how it happened, but it happened. It's not really fair because it wasn't that kind of lopsided. I heard that Kamala wasn't taken to the stage tonight and wasn't going to concede tonight. Now, I hope she concedes as early as possible. I kind of wish she had done it tonight, because what does have to happen now is with that resistance of moving forward, there also does have to be, you have to do the right thing, which is congratulations and concede. But the resistance for what happens next needs to be a part of that. But you do need to start this off in the right way. And people who are saying that it's surprised that Kamala has not conceded, she will. It's Donald Trump who wouldn't do that for 4 years. Kamala Harris will concede. And there is a technicality, well, there certainly was when we started the show. And I'm not saying this like fingers crossed, people. There is still technically a technicality where she could still win. It's not going to happen. So I guess it's fair enough to wait until it's 100% and then she will concede. And then guess what? If he's still alive, Joe Biden and her will be at the inauguration like Donald Trump wouldn't do. And guess what? Joe Biden and her will make it abundantly clear that there is to be no violence, certainly none in their names. And, you can't control the population, but they will do that. And they will do what you're supposed to do when you lose an election, not for the man, right? Not for Donald Trump, but they will do that for the office of the presidency, the things that Donald Trump couldn't do when he chucked his toys and stormed off. They will do the right thing. And then America, you've got the government you deserve, mate. We'll see you in 4 years. And Sam, if you're watching, remember, we've got a spare room. More than welcome. What about you, Chewy? Anything you want to say?
It's going to be a hard 4 years to go through. Like, I think, if he follows through on half of the things that he said, it's going to be very, very difficult for Americans. Like, I've spoken about the foreign policy stuff. I've spoken about Ukraine and Gaza. I think any country that does trade with the US, Trump clearly doesn't understand what a tariff is, but he stuck to his guns on that all the way through. And if someone can't convince him that he is speaking about something he clearly does not understand, and we're absolutely not going to do it. Think about a trading nation like New Zealand having to cope with a 20% tariff on all of our goods.
Yeah.
Someone in the chat was going, yeah, but he won't do that to his friends. Are we his friend?
You're not his friend.
Are we? Is Luxembourg good enough to suck up to that? Does he even know where New Zealand is on a map? Does he know what a map is? It's going to be a fucking zoo for the next 4 years.
Yeah.
America might survive. It might limp on. I think, like I said, this is going to be in a section in a book somewhere, causes and conditions that led up to the fall of the US. Maybe in my lifetime. Maybe.
Yep. It's going to be rough. It's going to be rough. So I'll say it again. You can congratulate him and his team for the win tonight. The next 4 years are going to be terrifying. And if you're rejoicing his win tonight, thinking it's going to be amazing, I'm sorry, dudes. It's like Luxon. We told you before the election what would happen. We told you how they'd screw over certain sectors of society, and it's exactly what they're doing. It's the same for Trump. It's the same for Trump. Just think about things like women's right to choose or bodily autonomy. They've got the Senate, the House, and the White House, and the Supreme Court. Here comes a nationwide abortion ban. Then they'll be coming after IVF. Then they'll be coming after gay marriage. My dudes, celebrating tonight. Sure, you got your win. You got the knockout tonight. The next 4 years are going to be a nightmare.
Look, I can judge him on his supporters in the chat tonight. Like the amount of people that have shown an astounding lack of grace. Like there are pro-Trump people that are still in the chat. Yes, they're annoying other people in the chat, but they're at least being somewhat coherent and somewhat respectful to other people in the chat. And then there are the people that have come in and poked Trump 2024, cope and seethe, fuck you faggots, and they've gone. Like, and that's what it's going to be like in real life as well. Comment sections and
sure.
God, Twitter is going to be a fucking open sewer. Ugh. It's going to be bad. We're lucky we don't live in America, and we have faces and genders that will be fine if we did live in America. But there are people that don't look like us.
Yeah.
That it is going to be very, very bad for. And my thoughts are with them.
Yep. All right, team. That's us for tonight. A huge thanks to Moana for jumping in tonight because, she's awesome. And everyone should go and buy her album at your local record store. Once they shut down Real Groovy in Auckland, I was out of there. No more time for that. And Sounds Mega Store on Queen Street, opposite McDonald's. Man, McDonald's in Queen Street now is so sad. It used to be a destination, 2 stories. All the kids would be there. We'd all be there. Now it's like a fucking hole in the wall that you've got to push your buttons and ridiculous. Get off my lawn. Okay, I guess we will catch you tomorrow night at 9 p.m. for another edition of Big Hairy News.
Settle a debate, whether it be thoughtful or funny, even if we're all creatures of hate. It's a fine line that we're walking together. For better, push aside the temptation to berate. Let's take a note of the corners we stand in. As many points as the hairs on my chinny chin chin. When the news that we're watching is hairy, knowing all the things that we need to be wary of. Like the rich have the hand out for rewards, while the many have to work at what they can't afford. And the rest of us ain't paying attention. We're too worried to mention. Other media is still dwelling on trivial facts, vetting bees from the rice and the mice from the rats, and picking and choosing a warpath to run, and linking ourselves with the hill to die on. It's gotta come down to a welcoming vibe, with an A and a self and a higher in mind. All heavily, neither this way or that, and we'll be analyzed by what Chewie and Pat. With the evil in the world trying to mess with your head, and you're sitting on the couch, you're thinking chivalry's dead. Each night, 2 nights, they're gonna sing you to bed. It's Big Hairy News.
All right, guys. Just love you and leave you tonight. Catch you tomorrow night from 9 p.m. Anything you want to wrap up with, Chewie?
I love the guys that have got right through to the end of the chat and then have completely blown their foo-foo valves and are just handing out bands like they're popcorn. You guys suck. Like, we allow you in and you're still shitty. Anyway, enjoy the next 4 years.
It's going to be awful. All right, team. All the best. Catch you tomorrow night from 9 p.m. Hooroo!
Cheers, fam.